Hello everybody, this is the Anime Bro here, and today I wanted to talk to you about one of my favorite animes of all time, and that is Death Note. Now Death Note was released in 2006, and it's many people usually their first anime that they watch. The genres in it are usually supernatural, and I guess mystery. This can be found on Netflix, so if you have a Netflix account, then go ahead. It's on there. It has 37 episodes, so it's nice and short compared to some other anime shows. Now, in this review, I will be going through the simplicities of the show. I won't review any spoilers or anything. This is just to talk about it and my opinions on the show. And if you want to watch it, you should go and check it out. Okay, so the plot of Death Note is that a young boy named Light Yagami finds a magical notebook that has the power to kill anyone as long as he's able to write them down and think of their face. And with this power, he uses it to clean the world from all sorts of criminals and bad guys. Until one day, a man named L finds out what he's doing and tries to put a stop to him. And with it, this is basically a battle of wits of who will win, Light Yagami or L. And one question that I really think about when watching this show is, should only one person's morals determine how the world should work? Now I'll get more deep into it with the characters, but when watching this show, even though L is supposed to be the good guy, he still does questionable things. And even though Light is trying to make the world a better place, he's still doing it in a way that's not really good. Alright, so now I wanted to talk about is the characters. Now, the characters I wanted to bring up was obviously the ones I mentioned during the plot, and that is L and Light Yagami. Now, these two basically make up, like I said in the question, should one person's morals determine how the world should work? Now, I'll explain what I mean in this. So Light's goal is to make sure that all criminals pay by death. Now, of course, he's getting rid of all the bad guys, but is it really true that everyone should just accept that if you make a single mistake, you should just die? Now, it doesn't seem that bad. Now, I know that the answer seems like, no, obviously you shouldn't, but really, during the series, many people actually come and support him, and it's just really amazing how it shows in society that people will agree with these things even though they seem so disgusting and just sad that someone would ever think this. Now, of course, this also applies with L. Now, even though L is supposed to be the world's greatest detective, he himself breaks laws. Like, there is a line that he doesn't cross, but certain laws he actually breaks. So, for example, later in the series, he allows people who work with him to hold guns. Now, obviously this doesn't seem bad, but in Japan's law, it is actually forbidden for one to actually hold a gun, except if they are a cop. Now, people who he works with aren't always cops. In fact, he works with con artists and even burglars. So even though he is a great detective, the things he still does is just still questionable at best. Alright, now what I want to talk about is the morality in this show. Now, obviously, you might think, well, it's pretty black and white, but not really. It is, in the show, it is very gray, and the reason being is that the two rivals both want to make the world a better place, but each one of them is not really making a good example. So let's begin with Light again. Light wants to make the world better by getting rid of all the criminals. That's good, but how he's doing it, basically killing them, is not really a good way, because that basically saying that in his eyes everything needs to be perfect. But also later on he changes from you need to obey the laws to you kind of need to only obey what I think is right. So he eventually becomes someone with a noble goal to someone who really becomes corrupt with his powers. And now I want to talk about L. Now L, of course, seems like a nice person. He's very caring and whatnot. But the one thing that I brought up with the characters is that even though he's a detective, there are some times when he will break the law because he focuses on one goal. Now, of course, he wouldn't go as far as to sacrifice somebody in order to find Kira. He still has his lines and limits, but sometimes it's not the same limits as if a cop would follow. Alright, now I want to talk about some shows that are similar to Death Note. Now, I've already explained in my last review that Death Note is like Code Geass, so I won't explain that. But there was something interesting that I found out on a website, and it said that a show called Full Metal Alchemist is a similarity to Death Note. Now, it is a big surprise, but looking at it, I realized there are kind of similarities. Now, the question I would think for this one, the Full Metal Alchemist one, is there really a limit to how far you really want things? Now, I won't get into the story, but really, throughout the story, the rule of equivalent exchange is basically the whole show. And that means to get something, you need to give up something with equal value. And that kind of does happen with this show. Light basically gives up his humanity to make up his image of him thinking he's a god. And because of this, it really does make life changes. It really does change him because he's given up his humanity, his basically things that made him not become this monster. And yeah, it's just really interesting how these two shows kind of connect. Alright, so Death Note is a really good show. Now, do I think it's the best show in the world? Not really. It's good when you first watch it, but when you watch it over time, it kind of does get boring, and all the cool twists that happen don't really hold that much to usually the first time watching it. So it's really good to watch if you're going into anime. You should really watch this because it's very serious and really cool, because normally when people think of anime, they usually think of Dragon Ball. And what people get from Dragon Ball is usually that it's about people fighting and yelling and whatnot. But Death Note, it will show you that there doesn't have to be yelling. In fact, there doesn't even have to be fist fights. Now, of course, there is a couple of fist fights in there, but it's not it's not usually the main focus of an episode or the show. It's basically a battle of wits between two people. And yeah, it's really amazing. Alright, now this will be the end of the review. If you really did like this, hope you like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys later. Peace.